ATL Bloods make a Chat GPT Time Machine. The Mechanicsville section in Atlanta was the real trenches of the ATL, and the late afternoon always had a real nigga rhythm to it. Tricked out cars rolled slow through the neighborhood, which sat just south of downtown, sitting on 34-inch chrome rims. Bass thundered through cracked windows from 15-inch competition subs. Kids rode e-scooters or pedal bikes through broken sidewalk slabs, while stray pit bulls wandered loose between yards, the stench of their huge turds wafting through the air. The air smelled like gas smoke, fried fish, and crack smoke. On the porch of a faded duplex sat two brothers. Quantavious Johnson, brown skin, 6'2", lean and sharp-eyed, only 20 years old, but always thinking 10 moves ahead like an OG street veteran. Next to him was his older brother Dre, way shorter at 5'10", but with a thicker build, gold fronts flashing every time he laughed. Both wore red drip, but nothing flashy though or for style. It was simply their gang's color. They had joined a local blood set called the 1-8 Trey Bloods when they were teenagers. In Mechanicsville, you either joined somebody or got ran over by everybody. The neighborhood had always been a battleground between Bloods, Crips, and gangster disciples. When they were 15 and 17, a group of GDs had chased them down the street one night just because Dre had asked one of their baby mamas for her phone number at the mall earlier that day. After that, their uncle put them onto the blood set that ran Mechanicsville and called it Murderville, the 1-8 Trey Bloods. Now they had protection and structure, and in their hood, protection meant survival. Quantavious exhaled smoke slowly from a blunt filled with exotic za. You ever think about how the whole timeline stacked against us, bruh? Dre flicked ash into a crushed soda can from his own blunt, not liking to share his gas with anybody. I think about how to get paid. That's all on my mind, lil' bruh. Quan shook his head. That's the trap, big bruh. We always reacting, never controlling. Dre laughed. Nigga, you been watching the Mo Black Panther documentaries on Netflix again, I see. Quantavious, an aspiring black leader, reached beside him and picked up a worn paperback. The autobiography of Malcolm X. Power ain't given, Quan said calmly. It's engineered. Dre leaned back. So what you engineering? A revolution. Quan stared into the backyard. Sitting halfway buried in dead grass and red Georgia clay was their uncle's old car, a 1996 Chevy Caprice Classic with the bubble body. Burgundy paint faded pink. Rusty 22-inch dubs sitting on rotted-out flat tires, chrome dull but still proud. The car hadn't moved in 6 years, ever since their uncle got stepped on and unalived by some real hitters from MS-13 after running off with their work after trying to finesse them in a deal going bad. They put 5 rounds in his head alone in the same car. There were also bullet holes throughout the engine block and doors as their uncle attempted to drive away from his killers. Quan spoke quietly. Imagine if we could go back where twin, Dre asked. Back in time. His brother laughed so hard, choking on a mouthful of smoke, that a stray dog started barking at him like on some Back to the Future shit, lil' bruh. Quan didn't laugh. What if we could fix something that happened in the past, like preventing Martin Luther King's assassination or even King Von's murder? Dre squinted. Nigga, you super lit, fuck you talking about? Prevent King Von's murder? That nigga's dead. Ain't no coming back. Quan pulled out his phone. He opened Chat GPT. Dre smirked. What you finna do, lil' bruh? Order one of them ugly Back to the Future cars? Quan typed. How do you build a time machine using accessible mechanical and electronic components? They both leaned toward the screen. The response appeared long. Technical magnetic containment fields, rotational energy, synchronization, microwave emitter arrays, high-capacity capacitor banks, electromagnetic resonance inside a reinforced metal frame. Dre frowned. That look real. Quan kept scrolling. There were diagrams, voltage numbers, material lists. Then one line made them both stop breathing. A full steel vehicle frame provides ideal temporal containment. Slowly, both brothers turned toward the backyard. The bubble Chevy. Silence. Dre finally spoke. Dre finally Terrell. His nerdy ass could probably build this shit for real. Their cousin Terrell lived up in Stone Mountain, Georgia. While Quan and Dre lived that street life, Terrell was a total opposite and lived inside the computers. His townhouse looked like a science lab, wires everywhere, circuit boards stacked in plastic bins, 3 monitors glowing blue. Terrell adjusted his glasses as Quan handed him his iPhone. He read. Then he read again. His smile slowly disappeared. "This isn't fake science," he muttered. Dre crossed his arms. "So?" Terrell zoomed into a section of the diagram. The math suggests temporal displacement through synchronized electromagnetic pulse collapse. Dre frowned. "Nigga speak English." Terrell looked up slowly. "If enough energy pulses through a closed metal structure at the correct frequency, it might bend local time coordinates." Dre stared. "Bruh, stop playing." Terrell stood up. "You said you got a car?" Quan nodded. Terrell's eyes lit up. "Big steel body frame, that's perfect containment." Dre looked at him carefully. "You serious?" Terrell inhaled slowly. "I don't know if it'll work, but I know I can build it." Building the machine. The next 3 weeks turned their backyard into a secret laboratory. They started with the Caprice's frame. Good old Detroit steel. Quan stripped the interior down to raw metal. Seats gone, carpet ripped out, door panels removed, the trunk empty. He was a pro from all the practice he had gotten growing up breaking into whips. The bare steel shell became the core chamber. Terrell explained why a time jump would create massive electromagnetic interference, he said. The steel body acts like a Faraday cage. It traps the energy inside the vehicle. Dre didn't understand half the words, but he knew how to get parts. He started shopping. Old microwaves from apartment dumpsters, industrial capacitors from a junk electronics warehouse, copper wiring from abandoned houses, car batteries from scrap yards. Soon the garage looked insane. Terrell salvaged microwave magnetrons, the parts inside microwaves that generate intense electromagnetic waves. He mounted 8 of them in a circular frame inside the trunk. Then he wired them into a capacitor bank made from 12 high-capacity car batteries. Copper coils were wrapped along the entire inside frame of the car. Under the hood, Terrell installed a modified alternator, a voltage amplifier, a homemade circuit board connected to the ignition. The ignition key would become the trigger. Inside the cabin, Terrell installed a laptop docked into a custom motherboard. The laptop would control frequency synchronization. Quan handled the physical engineering. He reinforced the chassis with welded steel bars to keep the energy contained. Dre handled acquisition. Nobody asked where the industrial capacitors came from. At night, the inside of the car started glowing faint blue, not bright. Just enough to see the wires humming. One night they powered the system halfway. Every phone on the block glitched. Street lights flickered. A dog started howling. Dre stepped back. "Man, this crazy." Quan stared at the glowing car. "Altering history. Ain't supposed to feel normal." Terrell checked the laptop. "If the math is right, we could attempt a short jump." "How far?" Dre asked. Terrell adjusted his glasses. "I wouldn't try going back more than 1 week." Quan smiled slowly. "Perfect." They climbed into the gutted Caprice. Terrell sat in the passenger seat with the laptop. Dre behind him. Quan in the driver's seat. The dashboard lights flickered. The copper coils began humming. Energy built up inside the car like a thunderstorm. Terrell counted down. 3, the magnetron started whining. 2, streetlights outside flickered violently. 1, gone, turn the ignition. For a split second, everything went white. Then, silence. The car was still in the backyard. Dre looked around. "That's it?" Terrell checked his laptop. His eyes widened. We did it. What? The date? He turned the screen. The clock read 7 days earlier. Dre's eyes widened. Oh, we testing this tonight. A week earlier, Dre had gone to the legendary Club Omni. That night, he had spent a whole band on liquor trying to impress a woman he thought he was taking home, but in the original timeline, she left with somebody else. Now Dre walked into the club again. Same music, same crowd, same woman sitting at the bar. She smiled when she saw him. Buy me a drink. Dre smiled back, but this time he knew the future. He leaned close and said calmly, "Nah, I'm good, broke-ass bitch. You ain't finna play me." Then he walked straight past her. Quan laughed, watching from the corner. Quan laughed. "First change in the timeline." Dre grinned. $1,000 saved, Terrell whispered nervously. "You realize something, right?" "What?" Quan asked. Terrell looked at both of them. "If we can change 1 week." He paused. "We can change anything." Quan looked out at the dance floor. His mind was already racing. The streets, the wars, the money, history. And suddenly 2 Bloods gangsters from Mechanicsville might have just built the most dangerous weapon in human history as they hopped back in the bubble Chevy and made their way back to their present time. Dre said, "Lil' bro, you already know who we finna go back and save now." They both looked at each other and said, "Uncle Marcus. Marcus Johnson, the younger brother of their deceased mama, had taken the boys under his wing ever since his sis got taken out by breast cancer when his nephews were in the 7th and 9th grades. He was tall and had a deep voice and always smelled like motor oil because he worked on cars all day to support his crack habit. He was the one who taught them how to repair engines and hustle, the one who told not to follow every stupid street trend. But life in Mechanicsville wasn't simple. Sometimes even the slickest ones got caught in bad situations. Marcus's addiction got the best of him one day when he set up a deal with a crew of MS-13 gangsters who were selling that white stuff by the pound. He capped them down, claiming he had the 16 bands they wanted for a bird, and it cost him his life when he tried to finesse them out of their work at the meetup. Marcus had to have been tweaking by bringing a chrome Tray 8 to the deal on some Tupac and Juice type shit because one of the 3 essays was carrying a SKS fully automatic rifle that he used to Swiss cheese Marcus as he tried to skirt off in his Chevy. Meanwhile, back in the future, the new time travelers climbed back inside the stripped interior of that same Chevy. The smell of copper wiring and hot metal filled the air. Terrell powered the system. Energy surged through the coils. Streetlights flickered again. Phones in nearby houses lost signal. Dre looked nervous. "Twin, this thing feel like it might explode." Terrell kept typing. Frequency locked. Quan gripped the wheel. "Where are we landing?" Terrell looked at the timeline marker. 6 years back, June 9th at like 8 at night, right here at the house so we can catch him before he leave. Dre nodded. Quan turned the key. The world flashed white again. Then silence. They appeared in the same area they just did their first jump from. Their own backyard only 6 years back in the past. The backyard looked the same, but the air felt different. Terrell checked the laptop clock. The incident that killed their uncle would happen around 9:30 in the parking lot of a gas station 10 minutes from the house. They had plenty of time to convince Unc not to go. Quan stepped out of the car. "Let's go tell this fool he bet not try and finesse them Mexicans or they gon' slump him." Dre cracked his knuckles. Terrell shook his head. "That might make things worse. You know he think he can beat everybody in the city." Quan nodded. "He right." They stood there thinking. Finally, Quan spoke. "The goal ain't to fight nobody. The goal is to make sure Unc ain't there." They found Marcus exactly where they expected, in his small garage shop down the street, old crunk music playing low, the Yin Yang Twins or some shit. Tools scattered across a workbench. Marcus was under the hood of a customer's car when they walked in. He slid out and smiled. "Well, look who it is, my knucklehead-ass nephews. What y'all little niggas want?" Dre and Quan froze. Seeing him alive again felt unreal. Marcus wiped his hands with a rag. Quan forced a smile. Unc, we got something important to tell you and your life depend on it. Marcus laughed. Y'all must want something. Dre shook his head. Nah, Unc, but this serious, though. He looked around the shop. Marcus shrugged. I ain't got time now, nephews. I got some business I got to tend about some fetty. A couple grand, so y'all gonna have to wait. Quan stepped forward immediately. Unc, that's why we need to talk to you. Your ass about to get Swiss cheesed up and you don't even know it blood. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Hell you talking about, nephew? Quan spoke fast. We built a time machine out of your bubble Chevy and came back here to save you from getting shot up by them essays you finna go try and rob for that work. Marcus looked shocked because nobody knew about the deal except him. How the fuck y'all know my business? Dre hollered at his uncle in frustration, repeating what Quan said about building a time machine out of his Chevy. Marcus stared at them suspiciously, surprised because his nephews had never came at him like this before, thanks to all the ass whippings he used to give them in their younger years whenever they got into trouble. After a moment, he shrugged. How the hell y'all turn my Chevy into a damn time machine when it's parked right out front? And that's when the trio had to show Marcus their time machine, which for some crazy reason due to the manipulation of time was actually a separate car from the same Chevy that was parked in front of Marcus's shop 6 years prior. Back at the house, the three kept Marcus busy for hours showing him how they converted his car from the future, even having to take him into the future to show him how he had gotten unalive. All four of them watching the event unfold a block away from the scene of the crime back in the year 2020 at 9:37 p.m. The 5MS-13 gangsters sat in the parking lot waiting on Marcus, but he never showed up. Terrell quietly checked the timeline tracker. Something had changed. The ripple had already begun. Quan leaned back in his chair. We did it. Dre smiled. Terrell looked at the glowing Caprice. This just the beginning. Quan nodded slowly. Yeah! He stared at the machine. Now they knew something that was crazy. If they could change the past once, and then another time, they could change it again, and the timeline of history might never be the same again. Some blood niggas from Mechanicsville and they nerdy ass cousin finna change the world.